Hi, this is Cheryl for Bayer's Pampered Stampers. Today I'm excited to show you some new products in the store from a company called Altenew. They're new to Bayer's, but Altenew has actually been around for a while producing beautiful, beautiful products. So I'm excited to show them to you. Be sure and stop in the store and check out what Melissa has in, because I'm sure you'll find something that you like. Excuse me, my voice is failing me today. And, they're just gorgeous. You'll find lots of inspiration there. So we'll look at a couple of the new products, and then we'll look at some of the techniques that I used to create this card. First, let's look at the Altenew inks. Altenew inks are just awesome. I've used them for years. I'm so happy Melissa was able to get them in finally. They're called crisp dye inks. They're crisp inks because they can do a beautiful fine detail. So your most tiny sentiment, your most detailed stamp will come out perfectly with these. There's lots and lots of gorgeous colors. I think there's maybe 130 plus in their line right now. Melissa has maybe 8 to 10 sets of these ink cubes to get us started, which are just perfect. Of course, the pads come in full size as well, but the cubes just make sense. They're easier to use in a lot of ways, even on your biggest stamps. And you can afford to have a lot more of these than the big ink pads, and they take up a lot less storage space. So they come in this kind of clamshell box. There's typically 4 to a set. You get a light color, 2 midtones, and then a dark tone. The beauty of it is you want to know what colors coordinate or match one another to stamp layered stamps or anything like that. Go to your cube. The perfect answer is there. So these greens go together. You can see some reds below here. The reds go together. So they're beautiful, beautiful colors. I do keep mine in other storage other than the clamshell. And so I've kept these little tags at the back just because that helps me to put them back if I need to. If I need to know which colors came together originally, I can go ahead and restore that. But for the time being, I have them in other storage that just makes more sense for me right now. So let's look at some of the other colors. These greens are gorgeous. You can see some reds down here. This is one of the red sets she has. There's a second set that's maybe a little bit more coral colors. I have that confused. It's called Tea Party. It's a beautiful set. This is an older set that I personally had, and so you'll see that it doesn't have the nice packaging that identifies colors for you. I went ahead and swatched it out so you could look at it quickly, but it's the beautiful yellows that I used for this card. I love particularly this one. If you can see how gorgeous that light yellow is. I use that a lot with my flowers, and I just really enjoy using that. But it goes all the way up to a darker brown. Sometimes the changes are a little more subtle than that. Here's a set of kind of teal colors. Again, all perfectly matchy. So if you wanted to do an ombre look, or if you wanted to do anything that you just needed multiple colors for, it works so well. Layered stamps, again, are perfect. These colors that they are shown on the ink cubes are a pretty close match to what you see on the labels. So the labels are a great way of identifying. So don't let my old sets here freak out and make you think that, oh, you won't be able to tell. You will, because your new set will have labels like this, and you'll see the colors better and be able to work with it. This is another set of greens. There's only 3 greens in this set, and then there's a black. And so that one I swatched out as well because it doesn't have the newer labels and you can't really see that. And of course, I wouldn't leave this set out because it's our favorite ever. It's the purples. We got to have the purples. So there's lots of fun in these sets, definitely. I'm going to go ahead and move those out of range a little bit, saving a couple to work on, use for a project a little bit later. But again, the inks I've used for years. I think you'll enjoy using them because they match so well and they give you so much variety. We just grab this lightest green here for a minute and we are good to go. Okay, so the next thing that I want to show you in terms of new products is an embossing folder she got in, which is called Organic Linen. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous all over pattern, good for so many things. I sort of double embossed on this card. I did each layer separately, but the yellow layer and the green layer are both done using this Organic Linen embossing folder. And I don't know if you can see this as well on this, but it looks just as nice on the front side as it does on the back side. So sometimes you have trouble deciding which is front and which is back. Just go with the one you like, and you can't be wrong in doing that, for sure. Here's a white one that I stamped, and then I ran one of the teal cubes over it. And look at that detail. It's just so fun and so, I don't know what to say about it. It's not a 3D embossing folder either, so you don't have to spritz anything down or anything else. You just need to run it through your machine, and it turns out perfectly. Has a great cottony feel. It's just wonderful. Doesn't feel like you're dealing with paper anymore. This is the back side, just as an FYI. You can't hardly tell the difference between these two. So it's just a very, very cool embossing folder. Again, the name is Organic Linen, and you'll find it in the store. Stamp sets, I want to show you a little one that Altenew sometimes makes little sets like these. This is the card that was made with it. This is something we did at a symposium earlier this year. Kind of fun to use the varied colors, and I want to show you that today, how that works out. Unfortunately, this stamp set is not available to us right now. It's sold out at the manufacturer. So we just have to kind of be patient and hope it comes back in stock. But what a fun little card, and so simple to do. Here's a bigger stamp set that I featured today. It's called Vintage Garden. It has 2 large sets of flowers, so the double blooms, the single bloom, lots of extra leaf pieces, and then a bunch of sentiments. The big words are hello and you, and then there's lots of little statements to fill in. Now, sometimes when you look at sets like this, I know for me, and this may be true for you as well, you get a little overwhelmed by it. Okay, it's pretty, but what would I do with it? I don't even know where to start. And what I like about Altenew is they help you get started. And so I pulled all this out of the plastic just to cut down on the glare. I'm going to take the stamps themselves and just turn them face down here to get them out of the way. But I want to show you what comes behind the stamps. And this is what I think Altenew does a great job of. And that's, they provide you a lot of inspiration for using it. So this is a multi-fold. Sometimes it'll just be double. This one's triple fold. And they give you lots of suggestions and ideas on how you might use the card, layouts you could use, colors potentially. So look at all of this. It's a place to start. They also show you others of their products that they think you might like to use with it. Sometimes you can look at this and say, well, I have something similar from so-and-so company, and you can just grab that and give it a shot. On this panel, they've gone so far as to give you color suggestions. What colors might I use? Great idea. They give you alternatives. It's wonderful to have that to start with. And then this brings you to the back where they give you the normal use and care, but also another card option. So Altenew takes care of its customers. They help you get started with some of these bigger and more complex designs. You certainly don't have to use it, but when you're stuck for inspiration, it's nice to be able to look at that and get some ideas of where to begin. So I stuck with simple stuff in terms of cards today. This one as well as the little hummingbirds, just because I wanted to show you a technique we learned at a symposium earlier this year. You can see that this stamping has multiple of those yellow colors. And again, here's my ink cube variation. I used all 4 of those, as well as the greens. And I used the 3 greens that came with the black. So there they are, and there they are used together. This is a technique that takes very little time, a little bit of patience, because you're doing multiple stampings. This is probably stamped 9 to 12 times overall to get all my colors in the flower. The leaves took less because the leaves, I think, are less detailed. There was less detail that I wanted to bring out. But you just kind of work with it and add ink where you feel like it makes sense and then move on. I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a moment. And then similarly, we have the hummingbirds, which show you using multiple colors on a single stamp. So let's just maybe take a look at that one first and how we might replicate this bird. I think is the one that I put on my stamp platform. So a stamp platform isn't absolutely required, but it certainly makes your job a lot easier when you're trying to do this kind of stamping. Using cubes versus full-size pads makes it easier, but is not essential. This is something that was taught to us by Altenew, but it's not required to be Altenew. You can use any of your stamps and inks for this. So be sure and try it out. It's kind of fun, and it gives you a different way to use your product. So I'm just going to pop this lid off so you can watch me apply the ink. The first thing I'm going to do is try and identify what's going on with my bird here. So if I rotate this around, I can see here's my body, the tail, the wings, and then the beak. So let's grab a green ink and start with that for the head and the body, and then we're going to switch it up for the tails and otherwise. And these ink cubes are just, they're 1-inch square. It's a felt pad, so it's not that squishy, spongy foam stuff that makes you crazy sometimes because it smushes into your stamps. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this. Let me move this up a little closer so it's easier to see. But I'm going to go ahead and apply it to the bird, trying to keep my green on the head and the body, knowing that my wings and my tail are going to be a whole other color. Now, I always keep kind of a moist paper towel or something and a Q-tip around. If I misfired on this, if I went up a little too far or something like that, I can easily go in and just pull that extra ink off. I can wipe it off with my finger too, for that matter. It's pretty easy. So let me go ahead and return this to the stamp positioner, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp down that green. Now I'm not done yet. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a purple color. So I'm going to go with, I used the lightest green in, I think I just, what'd I do? Sorry, give me 1 minute here. I used the lightest green in the set, so I'm sticking with the lightest purple and the lightest teal to finish this off. I'm going to put a little bit of teal on the tail section here. And then I'm going to grab my purple, the lightest color, and go ahead and put that on the wings. Trying to get some support here because I'm not seeing the color come off, but sometimes these colors are so light that you don't really kind of notice it transferring to the stamp, especially in the light that I use here for filming purposes. Oops, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down and try and stamp those 2 colors in and see where we come out. Again, because of the stamp time between when I'm putting the ink on and getting to the images, I want to go back and apply a second coat. It had time for a minute there to bubble up on the stamps, which, you know, sometimes that happens on clear stamps. And so a second coat is in order. I'm going to grab a little bit more teal here for the base, and I kind of feel like I want to go back with a little more green. And no, it doesn't matter that you've got multiple colors on your stamp at the same time. You just want to avoid mixing them together because mud is mud, and it's really easy to get to that mud tone. And so those aren't my best colors. I really like the colors that I used better on this bird, but you can see it's all there. And with a little more time and patience, it would have turned out a little better. It's typical of my demo problems. You all have seen those before. So it's a fun little technique to add those extra colors in. Super, super simple. Obviously easier to do when you're using something like a stamp press, as opposed to having to point and shoot with a stamp block. That's, excuse me, a little bit harder, but it's also doable. Now let's do this leaf here quickly. We're going to use 3 different shades of green for it. I always start out with my lightest color. And this is the same technique I would have used on the flower. It's just to show you the flower would take so much time, and I know you have a lot better things to do than sit here and watch this video. So let's get moving with this, and I'll show you the leaf section here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put an all over green coat on the leaves. And this is my lightest color, so it's fine when I go in with darker colors. They'll layer right over the top, and it really won't be an issue. Oops, I took my card out, sorry. Yeah, brains, I'm not strong on brains today, so let me just add a little bit more ink, and we'll go back and do this. Again, I'm just giving it that all over coat of the lightest green. So there you can see my leaves in the light green color, which are pretty, but they're not very interesting. I'm going to try and lift this closer because, again, I want you to see how pretty that detail is. I think crisp is a good word for this ink because it does turn out very crisp and very nicely. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take my mid-tone now. Again, this is the set that has 4 colors in it. One of them happens to be black, and I'm just not going to use it here. And I'm going to go over the areas of the leaf that I want to be a little bit darker. So at the base of the leaf, I want to add some of this darker green color. At the base of each, again, you can see there's 3 in my set. I'm sort of looking to see where things overlap maybe and where they don't, because that would normally be a little bit darker on a leaf. I'm going to save the darkest areas for my dark color here. So I'm just adding a little bit of color where I think it makes sense. I don't have to do it all in one pass because with the stamp positioner, I can do multiple passes and it won't be a problem. But you can already see how I've changed character a lot. I'm building up a lot of darker color there, but I still have some light peeking through. Now with my darkest, at least from the beginning, I want to start out and I want to hit those veins in the center, hit those really dark spots. And again, the beauty of using a positioner is that I can just pull this out and I can do what I need to get the ink in the right spot. Now again, ink cube is so easy. Can you imagine trying to do this with your big old ink pad in tow? Possible, but again, much easier this way. I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down and see how it looks. And I've got a really pretty leaf here. I need some more dark color down here. I need a little bit more in this area and a little bit more there. So I'm going to go ahead and try and make that happen. You can look at your stamp and look at your stamped image and see those spots. You have to remember it's sort of a mirror image. So even though it's like right here on this one, it's actually over here on this image. So sometimes translating that part is a little bit harder, but you know, just go for it. It's something, it's kind of an acquired skill. You get better at it the more you try. Where did I think? I think it's down in this area. So again, I'm just going to start with a little. Taking it off isn't really possible. So I start with a little and see if that gives the look that I want it to have. If it doesn't, I'll go back and add more. I still don't have much right here. Somehow I'm missing that part. So I'm going to go back and again, add a little bit more. I'm looking for these parts on the stamp that I can identify so I can see what I'm missing. And I believe it's right in this area. So I'll go back and add a little bit more ink and try again. And when I'm happy with it, I'm done. So practicing, now I'm a little bit too dark. These things happen. But practicing with your stamps is what you want to do. Again, if you want the ombre look or the look of having multiple colors in something, similar to what I did here, you just got to practice at it. Again, start light, go dark. It doesn't really work the other way around, but you can layer those inks a long time until you're happy with it. I don't worry too much if, like down here, my yellow got into my green a little bit, because if you look real closely, that happens in nature too. It's just one of those things. Here's one that I tried to do with the purples, and this turned out okay until I got confused. I was doing something else at the time and put my green over on this side. And rather than have it turn to mud, I just decided to start over again. And I used the yellows instead. But you can see it's pretty in multiple colors. You can see there's a lot of possibilities with it. Now let me just tell you, to finish this up, I fussy cut the flower out. It was on a white paper. I didn't want to have that white edge around it. So I took a color called Caramel Toffee, and in my yellow range, it's actually this one. And I put it on one of the foam blending sponges and just went around the edges. So I got a little bit darker around these edges, but it looks a lot better than white. And then similarly, I changed the foam and put green around the edges of the leaves. And so I don't have those white cut edges looking back at me, which I don't always like with fussy cutting. On the yellow layer, because it was a fairly light color of yellow, I went ahead and took that Caramel Toffee on the blending sponge and I added some color coming in just to give some focus on the flower and to add a little contrast. So a simple project using wonderful products. Again, the Altenew products are just top-notch. You won't find better flowers. Lots of pretty layering flowers in the store. I believe there's also some layering dies, which are a lot of fun too. Make sure you check out this organic linen embossing folder because it's just gorgeous. And the inks, the set of ink cubes, there's 4 in a set. I just pulled one of these out to use with my little hummingbird. I know you'll enjoy working with the inks. There's the one that goes with that one. Start with something you don't have maybe, or maybe something that you do, and see how it compares. I know that in working with layering flowers, it's so much easier to have a set that coordinates to start with, as opposed to trying to pick and choose through all your various inks and trying to go in and match things up. But have a lot of fun with this. Be sure to stop in the shop and see the products that she has on hand right now. There's a lot of fun to be had. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. Thanks for watching today. Bye.